light is red, the kids are in bed, which means it is time for Mile High Musings with me, Aaron Yowell, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What is good, everyone? Welcome to episode 4 of Mile High Musings here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am your host, Aaron Yowell. I hope that you had a fantastic week. Our neck of the woods got to experience that awful, just oppressive North Texas heat, the kind that makes it incredibly unsafe for me to tell my 5-year-old, go outside and play. Because it's awful. So as a reprieve from that 100 plus degree heat, let's ascend to the top of the peak and breathe in that rarefied mountain air and get ready to get into some sports takes a mile above the rest. On today's show, we're going to talk about Rockies baseball, All Star festivities, and beating the Yankees in a series. Let's go. We're going to run through the CSU Rams football schedule. We're going to talk about the ESPYs and how the Nuggets are heavier on hardware this week than they were last week. Some more Summer League takes, and then we will finish with my new favorite segment, Crunch Time. But before we get into that, and all that is good, let's go ahead and handle our business.
For the last 9 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to keep up with the latest in sports and with our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website, iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and all of our show pages with personal bios and the podcast feed for each individual show, including this one, Mile High Musings. Check out the show page at iesportsradio.com/Mile High Musings. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeve shirts, hoodies, and so much more. For nearly a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans and for the fans, and we thank each and every one of you for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
So like last week, I got to jump in first things first with corrections. When we were going over the CU Buffs football schedule, I said that TCU won the Big 12 last year. They did not. I assumed. And you know what they say about assuming.
What, Daddy?
Well, Penny, K-State beat them. That's right, Kansas State beat them. And so I was wrong. And also, last week I said that this week we'd be getting into the NBA in-season tournament. But because of the brain power I need to understand the in-season tournament, which I'm sure is me overanalyzing, we're going to go ahead and move that talk to next week. It's a little bit lighter. Ended up being a little bit lighter, I think, next week than this week. So we'll get into the in-season tournament next week. But we're going to kick it with the NBA and with more Nuggets hardware. Ladies and gentlemen, I love that IE Sports Radio lets me be a homer. And here on Mile High Musings, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Any chance I get to talk about the Nuggets, I'm going to take it. Because they're the champions. I also blame it on the fact that basketball is my first love. Sorry, but it is. So Wednesday night, ESPN hosted their annual ESPY Awards, and your Denver Nuggets were actually one of the headliners of the evening. at the beginning. They didn't end up being one of the headliners, but going into the night they were. All in all, the Nuggets were nominated for Best Athlete Men's Sports, Nikola Jokic. Best Championship Performance, Nikola Jokic. Best Comeback Athlete, Jamal Murray. Best Team and Best NBA Player, Nikola Jokic. Real quick, we had some folks over tonight, and they are trickling out. So if you are hearing background noise, I am sorry. I am dedicated. We're going live anyway as people are leaving. So stick with me here. The boys came home a little heavier in the hand. Jamal first winning Best Comeback Athlete, which I think is so much fun and so deserving because he worked so hard. He was out for over 500 days. 500 days. And that recovery process was so long and terrible. And it took him into December to get right for the Nuggets. And so for him to win Best Comeback Athlete was a really nice surprise. And then there was no doubt, just like there should have been no doubt in the NBA MVP this year, and there was no doubt in the Western Conference Finals MVP, and there was no doubt in the NBA Finals MVP, the best NBA player was Nikola Jokic, and is Nikola Jokic. Period. There was no doubt in my mind he was going to win it, that he should have won it, and he did win it. The other awards that the Nuggets were nominated for would have been really nice polls, but I can still rest easy at night, and I'm not going to lose sleep over those because they brought home the one and only stinking trophy that matters at the end of the season. So give them their flowers, and don't you think for one second that they're not looking to prove everybody else who is still on the fence wrong about them. I really think this team has a chip on their shoulder, and the more I talk about it, the more animated I get because they should. They absolutely should. Summer League is wrapping up, and while Summer League ball shows some things to some people, and there are NBA analysts who dedicate their lives to Summer League and to the draft, and that's amazing. That's not me, unless I got paid for it. If somebody wants to pay me for it, let's go. But I don't put as much stock in Summer League as other people do. This summer, I've paid more attention because the Nuggets won the championship, and also I feel like Summer League is acting as a placeholder for me because I just can't wait for basketball season to start. I seriously cannot wait for it to start again. And we got the longest season out of any of the teams. Well, us and those poor Heat. So I'm ready. I'm ready for October. I'm also ready, like I said at the beginning, I'm ready to get out of this oppressive heat. But I'm ready for October. So Nuggets had 3 games this week in Summer League. A Friday night. I'm sorry, not before that. Wednesday night, they lost to the Utah Jazz 96-91, and that score is not actually as close as it was. Utah was blowing them out for most of the game. There was not a lot of brightness for the Nuggets. Utah kind of let them get back in it. Julian Strawther finished with a team-high 21 points. That's about as good as Wednesday night's game got because it was pretty ugly. To the point where I turned it off because I was a little interested seeing what they would do with the lineup combinations in Game 3. Would Peyton Watson actually play? And it was so bad the Nuggets looked like they didn't know how to dribble a basketball that it was kind of disgusting. And there were a lot of tweets I saw during the game about how it was the Brian Shaw Nuggets and all of these throwbacks to when the Nuggets were just god-awful, which actually wasn't that long ago. So I turned it off quick. Friday night, the Nuggets Summer League roster continued the theme that ended the playoffs, and that's beating the Miami Heat. And they won 112-81. My rookie dude, Hunter Tyson, went bananas. He had a game-high 31 points on 11 of 13 shooting. He didn't miss a two-pointer, and he shot 7 of 9 from behind the arc. At one point in the game, the rookie trio of Hunter Tyson, Jalen Pickett, and Julian Strawther were outscoring the entire Heat team. So Hunter Tyson finishes with 30, game-high 31. Julian Strawther finished with 20-plus again. He finished with 23, which was awesome. And then last night, the Nuggets squeaked one out over the Knicks, 89-86. The rookie trio, that's just what I'm calling them now, all finished with double-figure points. Strawther led the way with 25. He shot 50% from the field, so Julian Strawther, who was, after the first 2 games, my least favorite rookie to watch, did turn things around, which is a good sign. He started to attack the basket a little bit more. He didn't just shoot the three-pointer, which I know he's great at it. But he started to do other things besides just rely on the deep ball, which is what he needs to do. And he finished with 3 straight games, 20-plus points. So good for him. Hunter Tyson was held in check a little bit more in this one. It was definitely an early 90s sort of NBA defensive struggle. Also, Summer League ball is just god-awful and terrible. So Peyton Watson, again, didn't play. He sat out 3 straight games, and the Nuggets are just shutting him down. His summer is over because I feel like he's going to get a lot of reps during the season, and I'm way okay with that. So I think that, Peyton Watson and Hunter Tyson are the most two-day ready-to-play basketball. And looking at film, analyzing draft stock, there's no way 2-3 weeks ago I would have said Hunter Tyson's going to be the one ready to go. I actually thought it was probably going to be Julian Strawther because of the program that he played in. But that made me go back and look at, okay, how many really amazing NBA players does Gonzaga put out? And the answer is really not that many, to be quite honest with you. So, to me, Hunter Tyson had the most impressive summer season. He looks ready to play minutes. It's hard to say how much he's going to contribute, but he looks like he's going to be the least scared of all of the rookies, scared by the limelight. I wonder how much of the same could have been said about Christian Braun last year, because I didn't follow Summer League as closely as I am now. Christian Braun plays with the same maniac mentality that Hunter Tyson does, but CB doesn't shoot the ball as well. So is Hunter Tyson going to be more of a contributing factor? I don't know. Could he be quicker? Yes. Of the 3 rookies, I think Hunter Tyson could be a quicker contributor to this rotation. If I'm wrong, I'm going to admit it, but from the things I've seen. I watched the second and third games. I wish I hadn't, because A, we looked terrible, and B, it's Summer League, and only so much stock can be put into quote-unquote ISO ball in a place where ballers like Taco Fall shine. But I am that kind of sicko. I think Jalen Pickett's going to get I don't think he's going to get a lot of minutes. I think he's going to get minutes because he's going to be backing up Reggie Jackson, who's backing up Jamal. I think there are going to be situations where he's going to need to play. And, I already said I think Hunter Tyson's probably the most ready to make a contribution. Going to Peyton Watson and what he's going to do this coming year, he better be ready to be a 3-and-D guy. He's not going to get huge minutes. He's going to be a rotation guy. He needs to think of himself in that Jeff Green rotation role where he slashes, he makes some defensive plays, he wants to guard the best player like Aaron Gordon does, and he has a good dunk or he hits a 3 or something like that. He needs to start there, because with this core, he's not going to break in and make waves for sure. So yes, Strawther shot the ball well at the end, but he plays small forward, and small forward is deep unless he's going to play shooting guard behind KCP and behind CB, but I just don't see him getting a lot of minutes. You know what? Coach is screaming for a timeout, so let's take a break. And on the other side, we're going to talk green and gold football from up north. It's time for the Rams schedule rundown. You are listening to Mile High Musings on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, everyone? It's Drewski, the host of Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. On this station, we cover everything in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. From where we cover the Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Stars, Dallas Mavericks, Dallas Wings, Texas Rangers, TCU, SMU, we cover it all right here. Every Wednesdays from 9 to 10 p.m. Central Time. Make sure you stay live with me on the Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the '08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
This time, I did cue that fight song. It's time for those Rams to run here on Mile High Musings, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Got to check in with the chat, Larry B. Good to see you. Glad you made it. Feel like things are buck wild behind me at home, but everybody's holding it down, and it's good. And I'm excited to talk sports, Colorado sports, with everybody tonight. Don't forget to give the show a follow on Twitter at MileHighMusings_IESR. Interact with us on social media. I'm desperate for it, y'all. Let's talk Colorado sports. It is time to talk Rams football, and let's get into that schedule. We're going to do the same thing this week that we did last week with CU, and we're going to talk about the schedule, some quick hits, and then I'm going to save my predictions and roster rundowns and all that jazz for a back-to-school episode coming up as we get closer to kickoff. We are 48 days away from college football kickoff as it stands on recording. So let's do this thing. CSU, the Rams, 2022. They were 3-5 in the Mountain West Conference and 3-9 overall. They had a win against Nevada on the road and then wins against Hawaii and New Mexico at home. Last season, the Rams averaged a mere 13.2 points per game on 197 passing yards and 89 rushing yards. Yikes. I thought CU was bad. Not so much. I even think I cited that CU had the second to last worst offensive production in college football. And I was wrong. It was their neighbors from the north. I'm okay with making corrections. We've learned that in 2 weeks. So in comparison, this is the lens that I have to look at everything through. how does it compare to the other major football factories in the state? CU averaged 15 points per game on 173 passing yards and 108 rushing yards. More balanced. I'm going to tell you right now that Coach Prime's going to throw the ball a lot more than that. The Air Force Academy averaged almost 28 points per game on 70 passing yards and 326 rushing yards. This is the way. And it is the Air Force way, and it's always been the Air Force way. We'll get to Air Force next week, guaranteed. But let's run down the schedule. Week 1, CSU welcomes Washington State to Canvas Stadium. This one's going to be on CBS-SN. CSU lost big last year to Washington State. It's probably not going to be pretty again, but like I said, I think Washington State's got a lot of questions to answer, and maybe CSU's on the uptick. They had a lot of injuries last year, and maybe they can right the ship. They get a chance to fight back week 1. And then CSU oddly has the early bye week of week 2. And then week 3, it is the Rocky Mountain Showdown. Last week, I couldn't stop calling it the Mile High Showdown because I got my own show title so stuck in my head. It is the Rocky Mountain Showdown. I can close my eyes and see the graphic and see the words. It's the first time since 2019 that CU-CSU is going to play the Rocky Mountain Showdown. And the last time that they played this game, CSU got whooped 52-31. That game was at Mile High Stadium, and I don't care. I will forever call it Mile High Stadium. I don't care what sponsor is on the outside of it. I'm going to call it Mile High until I get paid to podcast. And I'm not trying to start crap, and I'm not trying to throw shade. But there are too many changes in sponsors for that stadium. So to me, it's Mile High. In fact, it's New Mile High if you want to get real technical. Anyway, this year the game is in Boulder at Folsom. It might be ugly because I'm telling you those Buffs are going to come out and try to make a statement in their first 4 weeks. And CSU has been terrible on offense, and they have to play almost a perfect defensive game. Well, this is last year's team. Last year's team had to play an almost perfect defensive game to even be in the mix. Week 4, they play Middle Tennessee State at Middle Tennessee State. Big old loss last year. It's on the road, not looking good. Week 5, they play at home against Utah Tech. They did not play Utah Tech last year in the non-conference schedule. Week 6 at Utah State, they lost 17-13. No, it will not be easy for the Rams, Larry. In fact, even in the Mountain West, it's really not going to be easy for them. We're going to get there in a second. Oh, wait, let's get there right now. Week 7, they welcome Boise State, the Broncos, the conference championship game losers, to Fort Collins. Boise State whooped them last year. They whooped them real good. Week 8, they play at UNLV. Didn't play UNLV last year, so I have no data on that. Week 9, Air Force comes to town. That game will be on CBS-SN. Last year they lost 24-12 to Air Force. Air Force was the best team in the state last year of the 3 big schools. By a lot. Again, we'll get there next year. Week 10, they go up the road to Laramie. They play at Wyoming on CBSSN. Oh my gosh, that one's hard to say. Sorry. They lost a close one to Wyoming last year, 14-3. CSU plays a lot of games. This is the Mountain West sort of in general on CBS-SN. Streaming apps have the ability to multicast. I get it. Paying for a subscription, if that's your team, I support it. 100%. I have my days of League Pass to watch the Nuggets. So I support it. Week 11 versus San Diego State. Didn't play them last year. No data. Week 12 against Nevada at home. They won 17-14 last year. It was one of those, the defense played a perfect game, and they won by a field goal. And then CSU ends the season. I don't think you can end it in a better place. They travel to Hawaii to end the year. And they beat Hawaii last year, 17-13. So it's going to be tough sledding for the Rams next year, gang. Jay Norvell's stepping into his second season as the Rams head coach. And CSU, like CU, has the ghosts of seasons past haunting them at every turn, thanks to the great Sonny Lubick, who had 15 bowl appearances over 23 seasons between 1994 and 2017. And they had 6 straight seasons of cracking the top 25 in those Sonny Lubick days. And they beat CU 7 times between 1999 and 2014. This is not your father's CSU team. This is a whole different ballgame, playing in a Wild West conference, for lack of better words. The Mountain West is wild. You have Boise State. They seem to be perennial powerhouse. Fresno State won it last year. They put out good players. Air Force is always good, but they play a different style of football than everybody else, so that makes them fun to watch, hard to game plan against. Wyoming can surprise you. CSU should have a tough go of it this year. They have a good young head coach. I think Jay Norvell's good. I really do. But he fell victim to the injury bug last year. They have a beautiful new facility, new Canvas Stadium, nestled comfortably up against the Rocky Mountains. And as Bill Connolly of ESPN said in his Mountain West preview, it just feels like CSU should be good at football, because of all of those things that I said. Unfortunately, the Rams were second to last in offensive production last year. So they need a shot in the arm in a big, big way. Torrey Horton, senior wideout from Fresno, needs help, quite frankly, from the other receivers. And the Rams need to run the football. They desperately need to run the football. You're right, Larry. It is a beautiful stadium. And I love its location, too. I think that the ground game, and I'm not saying that because Air Force was a ridiculous team on the ground, but they really need to run the football. They need balance, and they need to give Cade Millen time. They need to be a threat on the ground, just like CU is going to have to, because Shedeur Sanders can't do it all. But CSU is going to need to give Cade Millen time. And if they can establish the run, let the offensive line hit somebody, the deep ball between Cade Millen and Torrey Horton is awesome. When it's on, it's on. They even hit one against Michigan. And they got whooped by Michigan week 1 last year. But, they've got to establish some kind of ground game. And then their defense has to start playing with a chip on their shoulder. They really have got to get after it. They got blown out a handful of times last year, and then they lost some close games in conference. As I said, the Mountain West is buck wild, but you have to pride yourself on being a good defense if you're going to play in a conference like that. It's just like CU. These are the 2 biggest programs in the state. They have the most history out of any of the teams in the state, and I'm telling you right now, they have got to start stepping up, and they have to start hitting people in the mouth and not being afraid of contact and not being afraid of adversity. Let go of the ghosts of Christmas past, as it were. Like I said, these aren't your father's CSU Rams. These aren't your father's or my father's CU Buffs. These teams need to establish identities that differ greatly from the past, because football has moved in a different direction, straight up. We're going to take a TV timeout, and when we get back, we are going to talk Rockies. You are listening to Mile High Musings on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We're back during that commercial break, and you are listening to Mile High Musings on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I, too, chat, would love to see CSU be competitive. The Mountain West isn't a Power 5 conference, but there is always rumblings of CSU joining the Pac-12 or the Big 12. And like I said during realignment week last week, they need to be in like the old school Big 8. Just straight, like, regional rivalry, recruiting rivalries. It should happen. And I agree with you, chat, the way that CU and CSU have played recently. Colorado School of Mine, shout out Golden Colorado, would in fact give them a game. I think Air Force would beat the crap out of both of those teams. Plain and simple. But enough complaining about terrible college football from the last couple of years. Let's talk about winning Rockies. What? Let's get into that Rockies week in review. Take me out to the ball game. All Star week. So it was kind of a slow week to start. Monday was off as players got ready for the All Star game. And then Tuesday night in Seattle was the All Star game with one Colorado Rockies representative. Elias Diaz, catcher, was our only representative. And he had a night. Diaz came in the 8th as a pinch hitter and hit the game-winning 2-run home run. And he won All-Star Game MVP. Are you kidding me? Diaz became the 6th catcher in the history of the award and the first Rockies player to win All-Star Game MVP. I really, really, really hope that they can parlay Diaz's success in that game into something in the second half of the season. I'm telling you, small victories are going to be the name of the game for the Rockies on the way out. Yes, chat, the Rockies are winning. Write it down. I need to go buy a lotto ticket or something. Wednesday and Thursday were off. Thursday is like the worst night of sports ever because there was nothing. There was nothing Thursday night. And then Friday, we welcomed in the Yankees. And they took no time to take advantage of that rarefied mountain air. Giancarlo Stanton hit a 2-run home run off my boy Austin Gomber, but that was the extent of it because Gomber shut the door. Austin Gomber went 6 innings. He gave up only the 2 runs on that Giancarlo Stanton homer. Those 2 hits, the one leading up to it and then subsequent homer. 0 walks, 2 strikeouts, and he picked up his team-leading 8th win of the season, bringing his record to 8-7 on the year. The Rockies ended up playing small ball in that game. They manufactured 3 runs in the second, and then the long ball kicked in for the Rockies. Grichuk hit a solo homer in the 4th. KB hit a 2-run bomb in the 7th. And then Nolan Jones, who struck out swinging in the 6th as a pinch hitter, hit a solo home run in the 8th. The Rockies used 4 pitchers in the win. So my speculation from last week of is 4 pitchers the current usage rotation in the major leagues? Is that the new norm? Yes, it seems to be that way. So my speculation and my questions have been answered. Saturday, 6-3 loss. I kind of thought, okay, here we go again. Connor Siebold gives up 6 runs on 6 hits in 2 1/3 innings. It's the second time in the last week he's been shelled. The Yanks hung 5 of the 6 runs on Siebold in the second, and because the Rockies were in a hole from that point on, they couldn't get out of it. And C.J. Cron homered in the 7th to shrink the lead from 6-1 to 6-2. But that was, we got one closer. And Rockies left 5 on base after only leaving 3 stranded the night before. So see my comment last week about if guys aren't running around the bases, you can't win. That's not how baseball works. And it's okay if the Rockies want to play old school National League offense. And I say old school because now both the National League and the American League have the DH. And the National League was pretty set on manufacturing runs. They bunt to move a guy over, sacrifice fly, single. Okay, guy scores. If the Rockies need to play that way to win, then do it. But to that end, the pitchers have to stop leaking like a holy bucket. And then we had a 2:10 first pitch. I'm sorry, a 1:10 first pitch, 2:10 Central, a 1:10 first pitch today, Sunday, against those Yankees. And the Rockies won 7-6 and 11. Are you kidding me? The Rockies found themselves in a 3-1 hole before climbing back to take a 5-3 lead on a C.J. Cron grand slam. So the long ball has come through in the clutch against the Yankees. And I complained last week about, and I think for the last 3 episodes, about how if the Rockies aren't going to take advantage of the long ball, then what the hell good is it? What's the use? Then in typical Rockies fashion, they let the lead slip away. But this time in the 9th, Yankees scored 2 in the 9th, and then 2 in the top of the 11th, before Nolan Jones, who hit a homer on Friday night, hit a 2-run homer to tie the game in the bottom of the 11th, and then Alan Trejo, who entered the game as a pinch runner, walked it off with a solo job and his first homer of the year. Gavin Hollowell picked up the first win of his career, throwing the 11th. Yes, he gave up the 2 runs, but he hung tough and fought through. The Rockies were straight up out of pitchers at that point and used 7 in the game to get the win. In a year where the Rockies have a .383 win percentage at 36-58, they're 18 games behind the division leading Dodgers. They're only 11 and a half games ahead of the A's for the worst record in baseball. I will take a damn series win against the Yankees. I don't care. I told you at the beginning of this segment, it is going to be small victories. And the Rockies need to play their young guys. They need to start to get them major league at-bats. They need to trade away all the old guys. If they're going to trade them away, just do it. Stop ho-humming around. Trade the old guys. Play the young guys. Be the Astros without stealing signs and cheating. Be all of these teams that you see building from the inside, relying on their young talent, getting a few veterans. Oh my God, that sounds like the Nuggets who just won a championship. Do it. You have nothing left to lose, Colorado Rockies organization. Nothing. So why not play the young guys, trade away the old guys? It can almost get no worse for you this year. So, roll the dice. Who cares? Spicy. I got spicy Rocky takes tonight. Woof. Looking ahead, Rockies welcome Houston in for a 2-game set. Second 2-gamer against the Astros in 3 weeks. That's weird. Essentially, it's dividing up a 4-game set over 2 weekends. But Astros come to town, and then you head to South Beach to play the Marlins in Miami before swinging up the coast to play at the Nationals. So I got really heated about it, but I want to stay there for a little bit. I really think that if the Rockies want to make anything out of the remaining 70-ish, 65-ish games of the year, go ahead. Trade all the older guys that you want to get rid of. cut the crap. Let your young guys play. Your best pitcher has an 8-7 record. Your quote-unquote ace is on the 15-day DL. It was just announced 20 hours ago. At this point, I guess it's about 24 hours ago, that Sanzatella has to have Tommy John surgery. So our pitching staff is makeshift at best. Our old guys I got to quit calling them old guys because they're definitely younger than me. Our older guys that we brought in that were supposed to be power guys have done next to nothing. Not that anybody's really done anything for the Rockies this year. If you want to trade them, trade them. Get younger. Give your younger guys the opportunity to play, and then just let it be. Figure out a way to develop the young talent, and then move along. Because it's not fun to watch the Rockies go out and invest in these names that we know and names that we've seen do work. Maybe it was 5 or 10 years ago, but at least there's some majesty to the name. And then they come to Denver and they suck. They get hurt. They're at the end of their career. They can't put up the numbers like they used to. Oh, they used to be a power hitter, but now they're gap doubles. Roll the dice. You have nothing to lose. You're going to sell out series like the Yankees, like the Dodgers. You're going to make your ticket revenue and your $15 beers and your giant hot dogs and nachos. Roll the dice. Play the young kids. Give the fan base some bodies to be excited about for a long time. The way that when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, we got excited about Troy Tulowitzki. Before that, we got excited about Todd Helton, Matt Holliday. Give me those guys. Give me those kind of guys. You have them in the system. I just feel like Rockies as an organization, you're too afraid to play them. Every professional sport is about getting reps. There's that whole 10,000 hours of practice makes you a master at something. So you've got these young cats who are projected to be really good. Okay. They're not going to get good unless you give them reps. And these older guys that are on their way out of their careers, let them DH. Let them rotate at first base or catcher or outfield or whatever. Play the young guys. Play the young guys. Play the young guys. I'm not saying this is a blow it up. I'm not saying this is tank. I'm saying invest in the future because you've seen it work. Other franchises are doing it and it's working. You need to start doing it. We have time for one more break. When we come back, I will be a little less spicy. And it's crunch time. I'm Aaron Yowell, and this is Mile High Musings on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, are you in the market for Florida sports or just keeping up with the latest in the Panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For a down south education on Florida sports and athletics, it's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio, You know what it is. Your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
Welcome back to Mile High Musings here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Before we get into crunch time, I want to check in with the chat really quick. Yeah, prepare for the future. Well, they got to prepare for something because, yes, you're right. The season is over, and it's been over since probably late April for the Rockies, let's be honest. If they weren't in it in late April, they ain't in it now, and they have to prepare for something, or they need to prepare to move and sell the land at 20th and Blake. That's been my take for a couple weeks now, and I'm sticking by that. I am spicy about the Rockies tonight, gang. I need to calm this down before I end this, but it's crunch time, and I can feel my heart racing. So let's get into it. Off-season grades came out for the Avalanche. Go Avs, go. Folks over at ESPN gave the Avs an A- for their off-season moves. I think it's fair. They didn't splash, and I'm fine with that. They filled holes that they needed to fill, and they looked at weaknesses from last season, especially the playoffs, which I've discussed ad nauseum on the pod. You have one of the best coaches in the league, the best defenseman in the league, full stop. Plus, I think one of the top 3 1-2 punches in the league of McKinnon and Rantanen right now. You need to pick up support players, and they did. So job well done. A-. Honestly, I'd give him a solid A because I'm a homer, but it is what it is. Now, play with a chip on your shoulder. Don't be content with just one Stanley Cup. Oh, I'm not. I have one for each color purse that I own. Every single mom in my neighborhood just freaked out. They want me to know that they have more than one Stanley Cup, and I live with a beautiful woman who has definitely 2 different colors of Stanley Cups. That's not the Stanley Cup I'm talking about. I'm talking about Lord Stanley's Cup. I need you to know that my wife was talking about getting a Stanley Cup, and I didn't realize it was a thing other than Lord Stanley's Cup. So don't be content with just one. This core. Hit people in the mouth. Just do it. On the other side of an A grade, let's give an Avalanche player, well, a former Avalanche player, the grade of an F. Alex Galchenyuk. This guy. He got into it with some Scottsdale, Arizona cops this week, and I know he's no longer with our team, but reporters got to report, gang. Apparently, Galchenyuk ran into a sign, then became aggressive towards police officers, and even cited quote-unquote connections in Moscow. He was arrested on charges of private property hit and run, disorderly conduct, failure to obey, resisting arrest, and threatening or intimidating behavior. The Coyotes have since, quote, begun the process of terminating his contract in conjunction with the NHL, end quote. All of this info thanks to the Associated Press. Before we get further into crunch time and I put a bow on this dang thing, y'all check out the other shows on the network. Check out The Neutral Zone with Adam and Zach. Check out Fast Break. Check out Heart of Texas. And shout out to my co-host. If y'all want some Homer Colorado talk when we get into season, Broncos, Avs, Nuggets, hit me up. As you can tell from this episode, I got some spicy opinions. But you know I'll be objective. Especially about the Broncos and where I think they're going to land this year.
Go Broncos.
I know, Penny. Go Broncos. Let's talk about those Broncos. Some more meaningless rankings, sort of. The NFL execs started to rank the top 10 players for each position again. Thank you, ESPN, for this. Pat Surtain, the second, PS2, is your number 1 ranked cornerback this year by the executives. He was ranked 7th last year. He's number 1. y'all, as bad as the Broncos were, it wasn't their defense's fault. It's the fact that the offense couldn't put up points and the defense was put in positions to try to win games for them. It's the Tim Tebow Broncos all over again, which was the most disgusting flavor of Broncos I've ever tasted. But nobody threw at PS2. It's like when Champ Bailey played for the Broncos. Nobody threw to that side of the field. They're not going to do it again this year. Justin Simmons fell from first last year to third this year. And I don't care what the execs think. I don't care what ESPN thinks. I don't want anyone else patrolling back there other than our number 31. So go on to rankings. That's fine. And this week, starting tomorrow, kicks off the Madden 24 releases. The ratings, the player ratings releases. If you fancy yourself to be a gamer, I do. I do fancy myself to be a gamer. In the limited free time that I have, I do like to play me some video games. I don't love the Madden series like I used to. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how the powers that be over at EA Sports rank our beloved and sometimes beleaguered Broncos. And along with these useless and ridiculous video game ratings, the top 10 NBA 2K24 player ratings have been leaked, and our very own Nikola Jokic looks to be tied with 4 other players for the player rating, the highest player rating in the game at a 97 overall. What does it matter? It doesn't, because Jokic is still the best player in the NBA. Full stop. That's going to do it tonight, folks. I got spicy about the Rockies. I got to take a breath. I do need to encourage you to follow us over on social media at milehighmusings_IESR. Check me out on Twitter at BigAYOWELL on Twitter. Y'all, let's interact. Starting next week, I want to kick off a series. I'm workshopping the title, but I want to get into an examination of the evolution of Colorado sports logos and uniforms. I know this is an audio medium, but that's why you got to go over and give us a follow on social media, because I'm going to be posting pictures. I'm going to be putting polls up. I want to know what you think. I obviously have my favorite evolutions. We're going to start with those champion Denver Nuggets, because I have that ready to go. We are going to actually talk about the in-season NBA tournament, because it's both exciting me and blowing my mind at the same time. We're going to get into the Air Force Falcons schedule. Of course, what Rockies Week in Review. Anything else that pops up in Colorado sports over the week. I know I left off the Rapids, crunch time, 0-0 draw against Houston this week. But that is going to do it for us here today on Mile High Musings on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Gang, again, I can't encourage you enough to check out all of the other shows on the network. Sorry, just reading chat one more time. As always, I am Aaron Yall signing off from the top of the mountain. Stay good, sports fans. Hit him with it, Penny.
Go Broncos.
That's right. Go Broncos, baby.